In this video, we will be going over a variety of some of the latest trends currently going on throughout the gang world. The world of street gangs is changing and changing fast. For decades, gangs were seen as neighborhood crews, fighting for turf and reputation. But today, the game is bigger, more organized, and far more dangerous. From escalating violence tied to drug markets, to unlikely alliances between sworn rivals, and even a move into white-collar crime, gangs are evolving in ways that might surprise you. The first trend we'll be discussing that sets the stage for gang worlds to begin with is juvenile delinquency. While most young juvenile delinquents do not end up joining gangs, the reverse is generally true, that many gang members exhibited delinquent behavior before their involvement. This pattern has persisted throughout the history of gangs and is likely to remain a key aspect of gang culture. Adolescents who experience frustration due to various social and economic challenges and turn to delinquency are often strong prospects for gang recruitment. The combination of youthful bravado and the excitement of risk-taking fosters a sense of invulnerability. When these youths bond and form deviant peer groups, especially in marginalized, high-crime neighborhoods, it creates an environment that encourages gang formation. Established gangs frequently target delinquent youth as potential recruits to replace members who have left, been incarcerated, or died in the course of gang activities. Younger recruits are commonly assigned lower-level tasks, such as acting as lookouts during criminal operations. Gang leaders prefer younger members because they are more impressionable and are often subject to juvenile court penalties rather than adult sentencing. This arrangement also protects leaders who give orders without directly committing the crimes. However, the increased application of the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act by law enforcement has introduced a significant shift, enabling prosecutors to hold gang leaders accountable by proving the existence of an organized criminal network. The next trend we'll be discussing are the exportation of street gangs. Some of the world's most violent and infamous gangs originated in the United States. In fact, many American street gangs have expanded their influence globally, creating international branches, much to the frustration of foreign governments. Groups like the Crips, Bloods, People, and Folks have grown so large that they operate nationwide and are often referred to as national gangs. When these organizations extend beyond U.S. borders, they are classified as transnational gangs. Two of the most well-known examples are the 18th Street Gang M18 and Mara Salvatrucha MS-13. These transnational gangs pose significant challenges for law enforcement because their operations span multiple countries, placing them beyond the reach of any single jurisdiction. MS-13 and M18 in particular have become major players in Central America and are increasingly tied to international criminal activities that connect back to the United States. The next trend we'll be discussing are third-generational gangs. The rise of transnational gangs has given way to the concept of third-generation gangs. These groups, including MS-13 and M18, operate on an international scale, engaging in criminal enterprises across borders. To understand this evolution, it helps to look at earlier gang generations. First-generation gangs were largely neighborhood-based, focused on defending their local turf, streets, parks, and schools against outsiders. These gangs typically consisted of individuals from lower socioeconomic backgrounds seeking to protect their limited resources. Second-generation gangs shifted toward profit-driven activities, primarily drug trafficking, and many became national in scope. Examples include the Crips and Bloods, which established sets or cliques across the country to maximize influence and revenue through organized criminal networks. Third-generation gangs, though fewer in number, have taken this a step further by internationalizing their operations, pursuing financial opportunities both within their home countries and abroad. The next trend we'll be discussing is a term by the name of web banging. The global rise of social media and technology has provided gangs with a powerful platform to exploit. Many gang members rely on prepaid cell phones to conduct illegal business and avoid detection by law enforcement. Beyond mobile communication, street gangs have established an online presence through websites that include memorials for deceased members, threats toward rivals, photos and profiles of members, gang-related graffiti, and even music or audio messages. The internet has also become a significant tool for criminal activity, including drug trafficking. This trend has led to the term web banging, which refers to gang activity conducted online. One of law enforcement's growing concerns is the use of the internet for recruitment, as it allows gangs to reach potential members far beyond their immediate neighborhoods. Recruitment strategies often involve posting videos on platforms like Facebook and YouTube, or inviting youths to parties advertised online, gatherings that frequently turn into recruitment opportunities. Seeing themselves featured in gang-related videos can leave a strong impression on young participants. As web-based gang activity continues to expand, its influence on recruitment is expected to grow even more in the future. The next trend we'll be discussing are gangs infiltrating law enforcement and corrections. The FBI has long recognized the problem of gang members infiltrating law enforcement and correctional agencies. Such infiltration poses significant security risks because these individuals gain access to sensitive information, including investigative reports, details on ongoing cases, and the identities of protected witnesses. Additionally, they acquire training in police procedures and weapons, which can further strengthen gang operations. Corrupt officers and correctional staff have been known to assist gangs in carrying out crimes and obstructing investigations in multiple jurisdictions. The scope of this issue is illustrated by data from the National Gang Intelligence Center, which reported that over the past 3 years, gang members have compromised or corrupted law enforcement or correctional personnel in 72 jurisdictions. Notable cases include a 2010 incident in Riverside County, California, where a sheriff's deputy was convicted for aiding her incarcerated boyfriend, a gang member responsible for 2 murders. That same year in Southwest Florida, a gang member who had nearly completed all steps of the police academy admission process was identified by an officer who recognized his gang tattoo. According to the FBI, members of nearly every major street gang, as well as some prison gangs, have been identified on both domestic and international military installations. Military deployments have resulted in gang members among service members and/or dependents on or near overseas bases. In addition, military transfers have resulted in gang members moving to new areas and establishing a gang presence. As you could imagine, having gang members infiltrate the military undermines security and efforts of the military. It's especially concerning the idea that gang members receive military-style training, which they can take home with them to the streets to combat law enforcement more effectively, as well as passing their knowledge off to fellow gang members. An early glimpse of a gang member with military experience causing havoc on domestic streets occurred in Ceres, California in 2005, when Andres Raya, a 19-year-old Marine on liberty, which is a form of military leave, shot 2 police officers and tragically killed one of them. Andres utilized military training he received to attack the officers with a technique he learned called slicing the pie. This technique involves the shooter rapid firing to clear a path while advancing on his target. Using a semi-automatic rifle, Andres drew officers into an ambush outside a liquor store in Ceres. Officers were finally able to return fire, killing Andres. Upon investigation regarding the crime, it was learned that Andres was a current member of the Nortenos gang. Andres, by the time of his leave, had already served a tour in Iraq. According to the National Ground Intelligence Center, there are indications that law enforcement officials in at least 100 jurisdictions have come in contact with, detained, or arrested an active duty or former military gang member within the past 3 years as of 2011, with the biggest branches of infiltration being the United States Army, Army Reserves, and National Guard branches. In the early 2000s, the FBI and the U.S. Army Criminal Investigations Department identified nearly 40 gang members affiliated with the Folk Nation stationed at Fort Bliss Army Base in Texas, another 40 gang members at Fort Hood Army Base in Texas, and nearly 130 gang and extremist group members at Fort Lewis Army Installation in Washington. A massive warning sign that should have received far greater attention to this issue was the death of U.S. Army Sergeant Juwan Johnson. In 2005, while stationed at Kaiserslautern Army Base in Germany, Johnson had unfortunately made the choice to join the Gangster Disciples. On July 3rd, Johnson went to park not far from his base to be initiated. An initiation within the context of gang discussions refers to the process of becoming a member of a gang, which often involves taking a physical beating from members to prove your toughness. Johnson had been jumped by up to 10 soldiers who were disguising their status as Gangster Disciples members to the military. Johnson had lost consciousness during the beating and was carried back to his bed by his new gang brothers. Johnson would never wake up that night, dying from his injuries obtained during the beating. In 2008, Rico Williams, a former Air Force senior airman, was charged in a federal indictment with 1 count of second-degree murder and 3 counts of tampering with a witness in the beating. Williams had been the first soldier to punch Johnson, with the rest of the group jumping in after. Though the problem of gang infiltration in the military needs more addressing, at least some level of improvement is being made. In the 2011 National Gang Threat Assessments reports, the FBI provides a table with the headings of a gang's name, their form of gang such as street gang, motorcycle gang, or prison gang, as well as a heading with their potential military branch. The next trend we'll be discussing is a shift in behavior with many different street gangs. Street gangs have long been associated with criminal activity, but recent trends show a significant shift in their behavior. One major development is the escalation of violence, which is closely tied to competition for control of drug markets. This dominance over drug distribution has become so critical that gangs traditionally considered fierce rivals are now forming temporary alliances to secure profits. For example, in the Rockaway Peninsula neighborhood of Queens, members of a Bloods faction from another borough collaborated with Crips to wrest control of a drug territory from local Bloods. This conflict, which had sparked years of deadly confrontations, eventually led to the arrest of nearly 100 individuals in April 2010 on charges including murder, weapons violations, shootings, and narcotics trafficking. This case illustrates an important trend in gang culture. Financial incentives are increasingly overriding traditional loyalties. Additionally, gangs such as MS-13 and the 18th Street Gang are forging ties with international drug trafficking organizations. Beyond violent crimes and drug-related offenses, many street gangs are now engaging in white-collar schemes, including counterfeiting, identity theft, and mortgage fraud. The final trend we'll be discussing is the attempt to make it illegal to be a gang member. An attempt to curtail gang activity within recent years has actually been the effort to legally punish individuals for even joining gangs to begin with. This phenomenon is interesting, as gang members themselves often get into legal trouble through the criminal actions themselves that the gang commits, rather than the actual action of even being involved in a gang to begin with. Although the idea sounds like a no-brainer at first, there are certainly potential legal issues that can come with it, especially the rights of citizens to peacefully assemble in public. Over the years, a number of anti-gang laws have been introduced, with many of them either pending or actually being passed to make it virtually illegal to be a gang member. In 1999, Omaha, Nebraska legislators passed Ordinance Number 34,926 as part of its municipal code. Sections 18-81, Declaration of Nuisance. Notice to abate states that any private place or premises within the city, which is used as the site of a juvenile gathering, is hereby declared to be a public nuisance. No person shall maintain any such nuisance. The police are given authority to abate the nuisance. In Arizona, assisting in a criminal syndicate is a Class 4 felony. If the criminal syndicate is a street gang, such offenses may become Class 3 or 2 felonies. California Law 186.22 states that any person who actively participates in any criminal street gang with knowledge that its members engage in or have engaged in a pattern of criminal gang activity, and who willfully promotes, furthers, or assists in any felonious criminal conduct by members of that gang, shall be punished by imprisonment in a county jail for a period not to exceed 1 year, or by imprisonment in the state prison for 16 months, or 2 or 3 years. These are just a few examples of states establishing legal penal codes, but there are certainly many others. Though there are likely other trends we've missed out on, hopefully we were able to provide you with a good insight into many of them and how they are currently shaping the modern gang world. Before ending off this video, I'd like to credit the source used for this video, which is the book called American Street Gangs, the second edition, by Tim Delaney. With all that being said, thank you so much for watching.